Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your patience, for bearing with us as we worked out a few tech problems on our end.
Yeah.
What do we got?
What do we got? What do we got?
I am looking at right now, I'm not looking at anything other than our previous screen, just so you know.
You want me to share screen?
Delay.
How about that? Does that work better for you?
Yeah,
okay.
That'll work.
Good afternoon, Suzanne.
Good afternoon, Mr. Oz. And how are you?
Well, doing this on the fly, I'm doing great, and it's always a pleasure to be here with my friend Suzanne. I feel like pasta and Fiorella.
I know.
Yeah.
except for we're probably not quite as intense as they are.
No.
And I like their intensity. Although we can get that way, I guess, huh?
It's coming. Believe me.
We have it. We have it in us.
I promise.
Yep. Hold on. I'm just trying to skip over something here. All right. Now I got it up. I got the stream up. All right. So welcome to Massachusetts Progressive. We are being hosted by UpHill Media Live. And joining me is Rick Lefebvre, Oz, who hails from just south of Olympia, Washington. Correct, out?
Just south, a little bit south of Olympia.
All right. And so we've got the Western contingent, and I am the Eastern contingent here. I am streaming live from Springfield, Massachusetts. Behind me is the Springfield Symphony Hall, which is a big landmark in our area. We are the home of the Basketball Hall of Fame, and that building just behind Rick, a few floors from the top, is actually my office building, and not the whole building. We occupy a good amount of space, about 4 or 5 floors down from the top. So it's kind of weird seeing that building there, and I'm not there because we are sheltering in place. If any of you have been watching what's going on in Massachusetts, the numbers are not good. Infection rates, we continue to be in what they call the surge. So I continue to work remote, and that's what we're doing here. This is what we've been doing all along anyway, as political activists, right, Rick?
That's right. And we're really activating these days with all the wonderful news that we keep getting laid upon us every day we wake up.
Absolutely. And so Monday, I don't know about you, but being in the unemployment industry, obviously not as many people will be this deep into the issues as I am, but it's timely. It's timely. So what I want to do is talk real quickly about what's going on with in the unemployment realm. Since we're looking at the possibility of 30% unemployment exceeding the Great Depression, and given the fact that the infrastructure in the unemployment system is functioning poorly at best, I have some real concerns about how claimants, which is former workers, former employees of the organizations that are reducing their payroll, that are laying off, that are forced to close their operations, either temporarily or permanently, as if things continue the way they're going. I have grave concerns for the public safety and well-being. Unemployment is supposed to be a lifeline, a financial lifeline, for workers who lose their job through no fault of their own, is the language. And we certainly can't blame the COVID pandemic on the workers. That being said, they are taking the brunt. They're taking a hit right now. And one of the reasons I want to do this program, I'm interested in getting the word out there, is because there's too much disinformation out there. There is a lot of fraud that's starting to evolve. And I did a segment in my political group about that just this past week. Actually, it was about a week ago. I have more of an update on that. But real quick, Rick, did you see the article I posted, the Pew Research survey today, determining, basically announcing from their survey that 71% of claimants are not receiving their unemployment benefits, even though they are eligible and entitled. That is a national statistic. So only 29% are receiving their unemployment. And what that means is since March, and basically we're looking at the end of April now, so we're talking 2 solid months. Some of these people have not had a paycheck. So even though there are calls for rent strike, I don't think you're going to have to take much to push people in that line, because it won't even be a choice. It's not like an option of, geez, I think I'll pay my rent or I won't pay my rent and join in on this strike. I don't think that's even an option. Striking, choosing to not pay your rent might be a luxury at this point. Rick, did you see that? Did you happen to see that article?
Yeah, I caught it. You referred to it as a national what? Was that a national?
It was a Pew Research poll.
Yeah, you said.
And it's a poll on. They basically polled all the states. They pulled national data from all the states.
Right.
On the unemployment, who's been paid and who hasn't been paid.
Right.
71% of claimants have not even received their first unemployment check.
Right, I caught that. So I would say that's a national disgrace. 71%. Are you kidding me? That's what I got from that article, and I didn't get really in depth with it, but yeah, that's a national disgrace.
It is absolutely a disgrace. So I have a lot of concerns about that, and there have been a lot of people, a lot of those who happen to follow my content, either on social media or actually those who know me in my professional capacity, my clients, as well as we try to help out individual claimants as well, as long as there's no conflict of interest. And so I've been doing a lot of consulting through my organization, as well as some work. I'm going to be taping a segment with PBS NPR tomorrow afternoon, and we're going to talk about this statistic. And it's alarming. Disgrace is certainly not too strong of a word. It's certainly not hyperbolic at this point. What we are seeing is, I'm not quite sure how this is going to track, but my guess is if this continues, it's going to have grave political ramifications for both parties. So it's crisis opportunity as far as I can see, because they are not going to be pleased with either party at this point. Although there's some indication in the Pew Research article, in the article that I dropped that quoted the Pew Research article, and I think that was by Vox, I'm not sure. It mentions, it basically talks about how the Republican states, one of them, there's a hyperlink for, which is Florida, and Governor DeSantis, terrible outcomes in Florida. Florida has always been slow to pay, not big on taking care of their unemployed, and that is playing out. They have not invested in their infrastructure, and we are seeing, I haven't done enough, I have not gone into the weeds enough, but I intend to before I go live or tape the segment with PBS. I intend to get into the weeds a bit and find out whether there really is a pattern of Republican red states versus blue states. We are not necessarily seeing that processing claims for our client base, but I understand that there is some concern about a pattern. So I don't know, Rick, what you think about that. Do you know anything about what's going on in Washington? Are people on the West Coast, are they getting paid, or are there problems there as well?
Well, as usual, you mentioned the other day about people who didn't get the first round of stimulus, the $1,200 check, getting it after the 26th. And of course, you're right again. They're due in on Wednesday, I believe, is the key point that they're going into. If you have a government or Social Security SSI going into your bank account, you should be getting that Wednesday, I believe. And because I got a notice this morning, I go, well, Suzanne's right again. Of course. Well,
so I don't know as much about the stimulus. I just know that I saw that, that was floating around. I think it was in a some type of press release.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people were asking me, and I reached out and said, "Hey, talk to Suzanne because she's the authority on this." But they were asking me, "Well, I don't even know if I'm going to get some." Well, yeah, if you didn't make so much money or you're in the poverty level, I believe that you were supposed to get a stimulus, part of this first stimulus package as well. The other people who were actually put on unemployment have already gotten their checks, a lot of them, but as you said, not nearly what's needed to keep everything going.
Not nearly enough. We're talking 71%.
Yeah,
if you have been paid unemployment, consider yourself very fortunate.
Yeah, you are. You are. In Washington State, we had up near Seattle, we had a lady who had a spa, and she made an announcement that she was going to get some of that loan for small businesses to her employees.
PPP, payroll protection plan, payroll program, yes.
Yeah, and her employees were enraged, and she was dumbfounded because, hey, I'll be able to give you your money back. You know, I'll be able to start paying you.
Exactly.
And they were mad because they said they're making more now on unemployment with the PPE. Than they were before. And it's like, really? I mean, what's your take on that kind of an attitude or behavioral pattern of people? Is it just, the thing to do?
It's a tough one. I mean, basically, I see the two as somewhat mutually exclusive, to be honest with you, because my employees, being that we're in the unemployment industry, we are considered essential workers. So I never closed. Nobody's been reduced. In fact, if anything, probably if things really continue, I may be looking at having to add headcount, not take away. Assuming my clients continue to pay their fees as they are contracted to do so. However, we applied for the payroll protection plan because we qualified, because we have maintained everybody on payroll. Nobody has been laid off, and they are not looking to be laid off. And one of the things is one of the things about having a layoff is that people aren't thinking about is you're not going to have health insurance benefits, and that's the other reason why I made sure not to. First of all, I can't afford to lay my people off. They have to be in there helping get the claims out the door so individuals can be paid. But the other thing is we provide full benefits and health insurance coverage to our employees. So not 100%, but more than most. And it's really important that they maintain their health insurance, because if they do not, and they get, or rather their job, and they get laid off, they will not be able to afford the COBRA premiums. They're cost prohibitive. So they'd be paying that out of their pocket while they're laid off. Yeah. So it's short-sighted. The problem is, even as I saw as I was posting into groups about the payroll protection plan and how important it is for the economic viability of our middle class, of our communities, of our local communities, for us to preserve what's left of local and regional businesses and not become big box to death, not to be, all our restaurants to be, Darden Foods, and all of our hardware stores to be Lowe's or Home Depot, and our grocery stores not to be Stop and Shop. I mean, there's a real imperative to this payroll protection plan to keep these small, regional, and medium-sized business viable. That will keep them on the payroll. It may not keep them all employees on the payroll. So the ones that aren't allowed, they can't afford to keep on the payroll, those people will be laid off. They will be reduced due to the COVID pandemic, and they will be entitled to the unemployment. Will they collect more than they did when they take home than they did when they were working? Some will, and I would say probably the answer to that would be yes. Does it create a disincentive to be recalled to work? Yes. Here's the thing, though. If President Trump continues to push and his administration continues to push, he can't authorize, only the governors can, the states to reopen for business. Then those businesses that are reopening, if they recall their employees and they refuse recall, they will be disqualified. And people don't understand that. They're not going to have the option in most states. including Massachusetts. So it doesn't even really go by whether the state is blue or red. It goes by the pre-existing statutes, pre-existing unemployment laws. And the unemployment laws are very, very clear. If you are recalled to work to your same exact position, same pay, such the same job, and you refuse recall, even due to fear of contagion, being exposed again, being contracting COVID, that remains to be seen whether that's going to hold. My professional opinion is a reasonable fear will have to be established, and it's going to be an appeal. And by the time you get through the appeal process, because the system is so bogged down, you wouldn't be able to afford to continue to go without unemployment benefits. So you would be better off returning to your job. I don't know, does that make sense the way I'm explaining it?
Yeah, I think it does. Okay. Implicitly. I'm just wondering, now that we have so many people that are losing or not their health care because it's tied to their employment, things are really going to start getting frantic. And I want to address this as well from a food production standpoint. The supermarkets, the lines, the social distancing, everything is really on hiatus, and that includes all those services and benefits and an ability to even get the items we need for everyday life. So the unemployment and how this is all affecting us. What's your view on that?
On the accessibility of food?
Yeah, accessibility of food. Because
food insecurity?
Food insecurities,
I'm not seeing food insecurity in terms of supply so much not keeping up with demand. I'm seeing there's a psychological component of people thinking that there won't be. But in talking to my local grocery store personnel, which I have little conversations with them, they are having kind of intermittent periods of running out, but it's because the demand, people are still hoarding. And when they follow mainstream news and they get all, all stoked up with fear, and they start thinking, wow, this could go to July, this could go to September, this could go to whatever. That what they do is they contract in their thinking, and they start making decisions based out of fear, and they start stocking up.
That's human. That's human. That's what they do. I mean, truly, yes. When you've got companies, the meat packing plants, the poultry plants like Smithfield, and they just slaughtered 2 million chickens. I think it was in West Virginia. Just slaughtered them because they couldn't get them processed. So I don't know. I guess to reframe my question, we have had built up stores up until this point, but when those stores start to be depleted, then the fear of that, when it hits the mainstream and people start hearing that, that's naturally going to make people want to hoard more and panic more. Would you agree with that? Absolutely.
And the problem is it's multiple problems there. Obviously, this is a very loaded issue. I personally am I never was into the whole prepping thing. I just feel like it creates more problems, particularly in a situation like this. You should have a state of preparedness, certainly if you take medication that you might not be able to get a hold of, things like that. In terms of food, when we sign off, and we have signed off as a nation, it's been our foreign policy, it's been our domestic policy, it's been our economic policy. When we sign off on the large ConAgras, when we are supporting single sources or key top ConAgra sources for our food supply, when we are concentrating a lot of the distribution, and look at Whole Foods, look at Amazon distribution of products and goods to single sources or very few sources, then that is the essence of poor risk management. It's basically hardwired into that scenario. So if you have these distribution sources, if you have the Smithfields, you have the Tyson Foods, you have these large conglomerate, huge food industry purveyors go down, or they make a policy decision that is not necessarily in the best interest of the American consumer, then what you have is you have a choke point and you have risk. So what is embedded in that? To me, the solution, and I could put this out there because theoretically and intellectually, I feel good about it. But speaking for myself, to be honest, I am ill prepared. I am not a farmer, but we need to be supporting our community farms. We need to be supporting the importance of these farm markets in your community, the co-ops, the locally owned farms. Support them. They should be who you want to be looking out for, and supporting and doing everything you can to identify these local farms, these local producers, because whether it's meat, whether it's grains, whether it's fruit, whether it's vegetables, whatever you can. There's a lot more being looked at hydroponics and growing things, year round. In Massachusetts, we have a limited growing season.
Right.
So
yeah,
that's a real concern.
So what say you to the food deserts we have in the inner cities? I mean, what you're talking about in my area, I'm semi-rural. I'm just south of Olympia, and we have already existing farmers markets and local co-ops for things. But some of these inner cities in the east and stuff, they're food deserts to start with. Do you think that's going to cause a cascading effect on need and desire? Panic?
I mean, it may. I think my sense is, from what I'm seeing here, the food banks are pretty active. The community is coming together. Massachusetts is. I'm big on Massachusetts. It's a great state. It gets listed as one of the top states year after year for how we take care of our citizens. So I'm not seeing that. We certainly in Boston, I think as you get towards the metropolitan areas, there's going to be much more of a demand on social services, on the food banks, and people need to step up and do what they can. But I think the people already have that mindset. And as much as I like to, talk about community action and talk about citizen advocacy and talk about what we need to do as individuals, one of the things that really bothers me is, let's be very honest, our governments are failing us. So we can say what we want. We can do a lot of things as individuals. But when you look at just the unemployment piece, and that's the part that that's my area of expertise. I've got almost 30 years. I've got 30 years, if you count before I opened my own business, in this field. I just had a conversation today with a national director of basically a consortium of professionals on the national level in the field of unemployment and workers' comp. And I pressed him to tell me what solutions and advocacy they're going to bring forth to Washington, D.C., to address what we're seeing happening with the non-payment levels. I actually sent him that Pew Research article. And his response, respectfully, was there really wasn't much that could be done. He cited the fact that the federal, so let me explain real quick, because I do want to cover the unemployment piece, because it's important and it keeps coming up. So if you don't mind me digressing back to that, Rick, one of the things that he mentioned was the fact that there's a tax called, if you're an employer, there's a tax called the FUTA tax, Federal Unemployment Tax Assessment, FUTA. And every employer pays in, with the exception of charitable workers and those who do not participate in the unemployment system. You pay into, employers pay a tax that goes to the federal government. That tax is not used to pay the federal emergency benefits. That comes from the Treasury. The FUTA tax than employers pay, along with their state unemployment tax, which is called a SUTA tax. That is used, the FUTA tax is used to finance administration of the unemployment system. Exactly what we see is collapsing right now, okay? So they provide the administrative, structural, financing, and programmatic support to run this individual state system. That has been gutted. The support for that has been gutted. So that's playing out now in all 50 states, because if they aren't getting the money that they needed, or they didn't get the money they needed to modernize their unemployment systems, to stay current, to build a strong, solid, reliable, and efficient pipeline and infrastructure to push benefits out quickly to claimants, then they're working with old legacy systems. They are working with antiquated systems. That's exactly what we're seeing playing out right now, today, real time. So employers have been paying into it, but they keep cutting the funding. And they're taking the funding, as I've been told, and they're reallocating it to the general budget. They're using it for other things. So even though employers have been paying into it, they aren't using it for what it was designated to be used for. That falls on our congressmen and our senators, because they've approved misappropriations of funding into the system, which has allowed it to deteriorate. So that's one concern. The other concern is the fact that right now we have a situation with the PPP that you brought up, Rick, with the woman who's dealing with employees who are not happy that she wants to keep them on the payroll. They are not well informed, and I hope she mentioned the fact that they would be going out without unemployment with unemployment benefits, but they would be going without health insurance as well. And as soon as they don't count on that money, because as soon as the state of Washington opens back up, as soon as these states say we're open for business and their employer reports to the unemployment office, which they will, we're open for business, then guess what? All the benefits stop. So that $600 supplement that you're getting, gone. Your basic unemployment, gone. Any federal extensions, gone. You are not going to get it, because that immediately flags denial in the system, and then you're stuck having to appeal it. So it's a false security net that's been sold. And as it is, only 29% of the claimants are even getting it. So that's where we are with that. And I felt it's really important to mention that the PPP is really a good program for employers that use it correctly. And sadly enough, not enough small businesses, not enough regional employers were able to get access to the funds, because Shake Shack and what was the other company? It was another, Ruth Chris.
Ruth
and
Chris,
many other, Ruth Chris, right?
Yep.
Many other companies, organizations that are publicly traded that have no business taking these funds were able to move up in the queue. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, these organizations took care of their buddies, wink, wink, nod, nod. Can't cherry pick who they were going to give the money to, because the reality is they get a higher commission based on the size of the loan from the SBA.
Didn't you post an article this morning about the Fed giving another $1 trillion to the banks? Didn't I see that this morning?
No, they didn't give another $1 trillion to the bank. I was referring to the first stimulus package that they allowed it's going to be a total of 6.4 trillion that was pushed out to corporate America, big businesses. This is not SBA loans. These are federally backed loans / grants given to big corporations, Boeing,
the big ones,
those organizations. That was the first stimulus. Okay, so that's what I was referring to. The fact that they didn't have any problem ponying up 6.4 trillion total, because I think it was like 2.4 and another 4 trillion that I might have that inverted, maybe 4 trillion, another 2.4 trillion backstopped.
So when you were referring to Ruth Chris, now that company is worth what, $480 million, and did they get? how much do they get? 20 million? Is that I think that's what you were talking about. They got 20 million on the deal, right?
I got a lot of numbers floating in my head, Rick, so I'm going to plead. I don't quite recall, because it seemed like that was 3 or 4 days ago. I don't recall.
Point
the
well
exact
taken,
amount.
though.
But I want to say there were 14 mil. It was 14 million is what's coming into my head right now.
All right.
That they had 14 million in profits.
In profits, okay.
And yet they qualified for this ridiculous PPP loan, which is really supposed to be earmarked for, or supposed to be for, small and medium-sized businesses. The definition of small and medium would not meet my sniff test. So in this new round, I believe it was 60 billion or 66 billion. That's it. That is specifically earmarked to go to community banks. Now, the community banks are going to have the smaller to medium-sized community lending relationships with the mom and pop places, with the smaller manufacturing firms, with the smaller professional organizations.
Are those credit union community banks?
I don't know if credit unions, but I think credit unions do qualify as well. I'm not going to speak to something I'm not sure of, but what I can tell you, of the 414 billion that they just approved in the second round of PPP, only 66 billion of it, I believe, was earmarked for small community banks. And that's a travesty. So the potential, again, the delta between the 66 and the 414 billion, I think that was passed for the SBA program, that is not going to, there's no guarantee that's going to land in the pockets of our small and medium-sized businesses, because they're, again, pushing it out to the Wells Fargo and the Bank of America and these big organizations, these big banking cartel, the big banking cartel. And who do you think they're going to cherry pick? They've been very, very clear. They're not supporting. In fact, there's a lawsuit pending for both Wells Fargo and Bank of America, that they have not been taking care of the small businesses. So you're talking a very small portion of what was just approved will likely land in the pockets of small businesses. And then by that virtue, land on payrolls. It will keep their employees working. So what is the unemployment number going to go up to?
Oh my
because
gosh.
If these collapse.
Oh, yeah. How long is this going to keep going before the whole country face plants? I mean, permanently face plants. Are we talking months? Are we talking years? I mean, what's
I don't know. I mean, I can tell you from the unemployment piece, the plumbing, the infrastructure is it's not working. And that was, I don't know if you recall, way back when you and I think did a show, and I know I talked about that was my fear. And I was leaning on the alarm bells pretty early, because I could see, being an industry insider, that this was going to be a perfect storm. So if these small businesses fail, if they end up shuttering their doors, and some of them will shutter for good, it'll change the landscape in our communities. Those jobs are going to go away. Who will pick up the void? Who will backfill the market? It's most likely going to be the larger publicly traded companies that are going to grab more market share. They're going to buy up these distressed companies, and they're going to control wages even more, so that the opportunity to get higher wages will be lost even further, because when they roll up those employees, they set the wage ceilings. They don't have the competition of the smaller competitors.
Well, I know that we have businesses in Washington State that are done. They're done. They are finished. They've gone out, and I wish I had a list to give to the audience here, but just take my word for it. They're dropping like flies, and if it's happening here, you know it's happening everywhere else. I mean, some of the more distressed countries or states in the United States are. And what scared the heck out of me this morning, what were they talking about this morning about states declaring bankruptcy, with Mitch McConnell saying, well, you know, so they're basically trading on not our ability to produce our GDP, but on our debt. If we file bankruptcy, California filing bankruptcy,
yeah,
how does that work? I don't even get that.
Well, I think there's a lot of constitutional analysis that's going on right now. The latest I saw was that really is not very realistic, from what I understand, and I hope that's the case. We do know that there isn't enough going to the state revenue pile, all 50 states. So, you know, they're going to be a shortfall in revenue as well, because you're going to have, such high unemployment that people are not going to be paying payroll taxes. Employers aren't going to be paying. They're not going to be paying property taxes. They're not going to be paying excise taxes. They're not. The residential tax revenue is going to shrink, and that's going to impact, outflows from every state. So that's something scary to watch. I do want to also bring up just do a refresher real quick on the caution that I am putting out there regarding the claim fraud, what's going on with claim fraud. And I'm not talking about claims that are filed that are illegitimate.
Yeah.
Those happen all the time, whether it's a good economy, whether it's robust economic times, or whether we're in a down economy. There's always issues with rogue players trying to get monies they're not entitled to. I'm talking about redirection of unemployment benefits for valid people who have eligible claims. I did do a segment in TBA about it, but I just wanted to say people just aren't getting it. The fact that they are desperate to get paid unemployment. They are trying to keep things together. These are legitimate workers who are entitled, legitimate claimants who are entitled to benefits. What I saw just recently, I use an app called, I think it's called Neighbor to Neighbor. And it's focused on based on your zip code and your community. And there were a lot of people online saying, how do I file for unemployment? What do I need to do? I can't get through. So I started to weigh in and offer some help. I dropped some links. I gave them the number for the State Department of Unemployment Assistance. And as the discussion thread was moving, all of a sudden I see somebody offering to do Zoom meetings to help people file their unemployment claim, where they could share their screen, blah, blah, blah. Don't bite on that. The worst thing you can do is turn to any other party other than a professional that's in the industry, and there aren't many of us, I can tell you. I happen to be one of them, but if you actually know somebody who's been working in the industry in unemployment that has legitimate credentials and standing, fine. Otherwise, you need to be dealing only with the state agency. Do not release your Social Security number to any party. Do not pay any party to file a claim for you or to expedite your claim filing or your claim payment. They are not authorized to do that, and they are basically looking for your information. Not that it wasn't available by Equifax and all the breaches.
Thank you,
but
Equifax.
They are looking for your information so they can redirect your claim to themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
So be very, very careful.
If you thought the fraud was rampant before, this is a whole new turf for them to perpetrate fraud on everybody. So, like Suzanne, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I noticed you were losing it the other day, blowing some fuses about this whole thing. And thanks for letting everybody know and giving us a heads up. I hope it gets through, and it's one of the reasons why I'm going public with this. It's not about protecting my privacy or how I'm reticent about even being on YouTube. But at this point, this is such a serious issue. And the worst thing that could happen is somebody lose their job and then finally get into the system for the unemployment. Or maybe they don't even get in the system, but they turn to somebody who says they're going to help them. They take their information, they log in for them, and then they misdirect their claim. The other side of that story is good luck proving that's not them. So now they have to establish a claim through the unemployment and prove that it was fraud. And again, by the time that appeal process concludes, you're going to be toast financially, because the unemployment system, the claim system is dragging. The appeal process, you're looking at years. I'm trying not to be sarcastic or exaggerate, but the unemployment appeal system it moves even slower than the claim system. Yeah, backlogs are going to be incredible. just with everything. It's all converged to this point right now. It's a bottleneck. It's the worst bottleneck of bureaucracy of everything that I've seen in my lifetime. So
It is sad. It
yeah,
is, Rick. It really is.
It's crazy.
It's choke points everywhere. You know, I think the IRS. I'll give them credit for what I'm hearing. I mean, granted, there are a lot of people that haven't received their stimulus checks, but they're doing a heck of a lot better getting it out than the unemployment systems. I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing in Florida that it could be a month before you even get a call back on inquiring about your claim, let alone establishing a claim.
So what do you do for your rent? Do you pay your rent or what?
No, I mean, how can you?
How can you with no money?
You know, no money. So, you know, like the whole rent strike thing, it's kind of a joke. It's like, I don't know if you can call it a strike. If you don't have the money, it's not really a strike. It is a luxury if you can have the money and you decide not to pay, you know, and your rent as an act of solidarity to perhaps extract better policy, better action from our government, from the powers that be.
Is that a new term? Is that a new term? Rent privilege? Is that what's up?
Yeah, I mean, when you call it that, I mean, if you have the option of a rent strike, good for you.
Yeah.
You know,
wow.
God bless you. But there are some people that don't have the option.
No.
They can't pay it.
No. Most people in this country can't afford a $400 emergency. I mean, wow.
And businesses, here's a sobering statistic. Most small businesses and even some medium-sized businesses only have 15 days of cash reserves to fall back on to continue operating.
15 days?
15 days.
Oh my God. That's a heck of a business plan to have to live by. Wow.
Yeah. So it's not just the cash-starved citizens of this country. The payroll protection plan was a solution to help these businesses. And what I see happen far too much is people actually think, wow, don't give any more money to businesses. They think that withholding money from the small businesses and the medium-sized regional organizations is beating up on the big guys. It's not. It's not. You're piling on. You're making it worse. You are basically shooting yourself in the foot, because these are the organizations that provide the bulk of employment in this country. They are the backbone of our economy. It's not the big boys. They aren't the ones that are suffering. They already got their money. They got it in the first round of stimulus. They got trillions. So there's a lot of confusion about that.
Trillions. If you thought 2008 was a gift to them, now it's what, 10 times the gift to them? I mean, trillions and trillions and trillions?
I don't know if it's 10 times. I think we did 2.something trillion, 2.7, 2.6 trillion in 2008, and we've done a total of 6.4 trillion.
Okay, so 3 times basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Right now.
Right now, up until this point, and more is to come probably. I mean, why stop a good thing for the overlords and the oligarchs? And I mean, keep it coming, baby. So
life is good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, that we have literally. I'm quoting. Who was on Jimmy Dore. You and I follow him. He's great, and I can't think of his name now.
Matt Stoller.
Not Matt Stoller, no. He's a guy more on the economics. He's
Dylan Ratigan.
Dylan Ratigan, thank you very much.
Sure.
Dylan. Dylan used the term, and I think Matt Stoller did as well. And I've used it. I've copied it, and I like it because it metaphorically it just fits. We have a money cannon pointing at the bank at Wall Street. We have a money cannon pointing to the bank, to big banks. We have zero plumbing. We have very poor, leaky plumbing supporting the infrastructure to push any revenue out, any of our tax revenue, any of our treasury out to the average citizen, out to claimants, out to even the IRS. I mean, they've done better than unemployment, but they've been struggling as well to point the money where it needs to go.
So are you saying our financial infrastructure is bursting? The pipes are going all over the place, and none of it's landing on the poor, the working poor, the people who actually need it?
I would say that we're dealing with a very faulty sprinkler system. versus a large, huge, water cannon that is pointing to corporations. So, they're drinking. Corporations are drinking out of the fire hose, and then trying to elbow out the small businesses, to even on the SBA loans. So it's a travesty. It's appalling, and it's alarming on many levels. And I'll tell you what, I also posted something today, and I'm pretty sure you saw it on Joe Biden and the Hill article about his lack of leadership.
Oh my gosh.
What the hell?
Where's
the guy
Joe?
has said nothing. Nothing.
Where's Waldo? Where's
Waldo?
Yeah, he certainly isn't Carmen Sandiego, that's for sure. I don't know what's going on. Isn't he like sequestered in some bunker in Delaware, or where is he?
I have no idea where the man is. He's certainly sheltering in place. He's taken that dead serious. But I had a conversation on Twitter with Nico House, and we were talking about Biden and talking about the option of Trump versus Biden. And I am still coming down on it right now. It's not an option for me. I won't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for him in 2016. I will not be voting for him in 2020. Biden is not looking much better. And the way I look at it, it comes down to a numbers game. It's 8 years of Biden and incrementalism that will derail the progressive movement. It is 8 years of him and or the chosen successor, because it's not likely he'll be the Democrats would be limited to 1 4-year term. So you're looking at 8 years of either Biden or an establishment elite selected. If he doesn't make the full term, they could pick anybody, right? I mean,
we covered that.
Who the vice president's going to be.
We covered that this morning on the Daily Dive. Amber and I went through that a little bit, and it's like they're concerned Biden's not even going to make it past convention.
I agree. I have real concerns about that. I think they're going to foist. My personal fear is they're going to foist Cuomo Hillary Clinton ticket on us.
Yeah, they could do that. I didn't New York cancel their primary?
Right, they did.
They did cancel.
Lots going on in New York. I'm pretty sure they canceled the primary, and also didn't they move to take Sanders off the ballot?
Yes, they did. And
they did.
Amber was checking on that, and the Secretary of State for New York said they just moved it to the 26th. But everything I'm seeing. And it's noon. It's after 3 now, so we should have more information. But everything I saw was they're canceling the primary in New York, and they're chucking Bernie off the ballot. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a really good way to get out the vote for the Biden administration. They had Klobuchar and Stacey Abrams and Gretchen Whitmire, potential VP candidates, talking for Biden this weekend. The potential
there's a problem. Why the hell are they talking for Biden?
Yeah,
he's supposed to be showing what the Hill article makes a good case for us. He's supposed to be leading, not Sanders, not the squad, not Whitmer, not Cuomo, not Hillary, not Obama. They are not supposed to be holding him up, propping him up, pushing him forward. He needs to be showing leadership. He's not showing leadership, and that creates a vacuum that concerns me, because who will end up stepping up in a Biden presidency? Who will be truly running things from the Oval Office? And if this is what we have to look forward to, that scares the hell out of me. So I am looking at 8 years of that versus 4 years of Trump. We know with Trump, he is obnoxious on levels I can't even begin to articulate. He concerns me from whether it's environmental issues, whether it's corruption, whether it's his sketchy foreign policy. But here's what I do know about Trump: everything he does gets magnified and gets examined and gets torn and gets put out there by the covetous mainstream media that would be celebrating anything Biden does and covering for him and running interference for him with the American public. So I'm looking at 4 years of known crap with Trump, and knowing that it's what we have, what we've already survived for 4 years of, or just 4 years of Trump with his things being exposed, and him probably being blamed for things he didn't even do, or Biden, where I have great fear that there will be an incredible amount of interference run for him by the mainstream media. So if he is doing something bogus, if he is hurting our best interests, and I don't have confidence that he won't based on his past policies, based on the things he has signed off on, including the Iraq war twice, including taking down the protections for big pharma for the American people.
Patriot Act.
Patriot Act. There's so many things.
Yeah.
If he is elected, that's 8 years. So I look at the numbers, I'm like 4 years more of dealing with Trump and the bombast and the BS, knowing conspicuously what the man is doing, or 8 years of a lot of sleight of hand and deception of neoliberalism. And as far as I'm concerned, his getting replaced by an element we don't even know what that will be. Yeah. We don't get to pick.
No, we don't. And there are quite a few people out there talking about how Trump, and this is what I ask you, it looks like Trump is outlefting Biden, outlefting the Democrats.
Yeah, God, I shudder to think.
I know, it's scary. I mean, somebody coined the phrase yesterday that Trump is more of a chance of getting Medicare for all than anything that the neoliberal Biden or the Obama people have. I just it's scary when that's your choice. And
it's a non-choice.
It's a non-choice. It's absolutely a non-choice. And I'll say again, Biden's not going to, inspire to get out the vote at all with, and the Tara Reade thing. I mean, I believe women. I've always believed women, especially when it comes to, men in power positions. You can speak to it better than most people can. And I was in management for years, and I saw that happening, and it was so against my ideology.
All the time, but it happens all the time.
It's crazy.
I will tell you. I mean, one of the reasons why I started my own company is I didn't want to have to deal with it. It happened on the regular, and you have choices. I was told, and this was even more recent times. I was told, particularly if you're a woman who's running her own business, but even before that, if you make a stink and you call out those that are in our industry, then good luck finding a job. Good luck, you're going to get blackballed. You're going to be labeled a troublemaker.
Oh yeah.
You're never going to sell another account.
Yep.
You're not going to close anything.
Yep.
They circle the wagons, and a lot of women, unfortunately, in politics, as we have seen, but also in the business world, they're empowered, and they're, I am women hear me roar, and they're all about the woman thing, until it potentially could affect their financial well-being and their pocketbooks and their bottom line, and all of a sudden you don't get the support from females that you would like to get. I've experienced that as well. What I can also tell you is some of the best supporters I have been men as well as women, but I've had a lot of men who've been out there pushing for me and who have been supportive and would not tolerate that kind of behavior in their workplaces if they know about it. So, the Tara Reade thing, what I saw, very, very credible. Very credible.
Yeah, exceptionally so, with the 1993 Larry King interview where her mother called in and was talking about it. And, Tara Reade herself said, yeah, my mother called into Larry King. I told my brother. I mean, this is all credible stuff. And when, I asked Amber this question this morning about why did it take, and she had a good answer. Why did it take Tara Reade 30 years to come out about this? And I know that I'm going to get a wonderful answer from you too.
Well, the reality is she did take 30 years. It was 30 years before anybody bothered to look at it.
Yeah.
The woman had a history of talking about this, of trying to get some redress, of trying to protect others from being exposed to a Joe Biden type of behavior from Joe Biden himself. And she was cut off at every pass. So it didn't take her 30 years. That actually goes to the topic we were just talking about, where I have great fear about of the power of mainstream media and what they will gloss over, what they will suppress, what they will choose to cover. If Biden gets in office, how many people will be harmed? How many people will die? How many people will be sent off to fight wars that we shouldn't be fighting? He was part of the Obama administration. He served at the pleasure of Obama, just like Hillary Clinton did when they decided to do the coup in Libya and kill Gaddafi, and that country has spiraled into a failed state. And how many people died? So when people tell me, well, what about lives? People are going to die if Trump is elected. It's like, oh, please. Trump has not gotten us into any more wars.
Yeah.
It's not to say that he wasn't trying for Venezuela.
Yeah, absolutely.
But and I'm not defending Trump. What I'm saying is, don't use the Trump is going to get us all killed line on me. It's just not compelling enough. The facts are Bush and Obama killed a lot of people. Obama dropped more bombs on innocents and on Black and brown people than even George Bush did. So that's a scary statistic.
Well, yeah, and Obama took us from Bush from 2 wars to 6, I believe. And another point on Trump, well, he hasn't got us into another one yet, so he's on 4 years. So again, I don't think we're defending Donald Trump. We're just stating the facts as they are right now. The Tara Reade thing, the wars, everything, the choices, the non-choices we have. I mean, Blaisley Ford, Anita Hill, Monica Lewinsky. I mean, come on.
Right.
I mean, really?
Jennifer Flowers.
Jennifer Flowers. Yeah. I mean, it's been pegged and hedged against them, like you say, for decades. That it's not that they just are now bringing it up. It's that they're finally getting into the mainstream a little bit, but not nearly what they need to get their voice heard. And this is the tragedy about the whole thing. These men in these positions of power should not be where they're at today. They shouldn't have been where they were at yesterday, and they should have been held accountable at the time. But because of our society from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, we had such a slow evolution, but we haven't made real progress on the front of sexism and harassment by powerful individuals in the workplace.
No. I think we've made some progress. Certainly I see it. I look at my son, and I look at his generation, millennials, younger, and there is, I think, much to be said about how they think, how the job that has been done in cultivating a lot more respect and a lot more positive outcomes in terms of the younger generation. In terms of the older generation, I mean, these guys are dinosaurs. I mean, and the women that protect them, I'm sorry, but, it's not just, unfortunately, it's not just Joe Biden's wife that's condoning it and Hillary Clinton. I mean, we had, what's her name there? The younger woman who came out last week, and she got a lot of grief for it. Big Joe, she's the one that calls out everybody for the sexual harassment. She was all over
Alyssa
Kavanaugh. Alyssa Milano.
Oh yeah, she's
right?
Yeah, she's my God, and Whoopi Goldberg. I mean,
yeah, Whoopi Goldberg.
Same stuff.
So I guess it doesn't go down by age, but I do think largely you're going to see the minimizing and dismissiveness tends to be with a little bit more older crowd. I think Alyssa Milano took a lot of pushback from her generation.
Oh yeah, big time
for what she said.
Yeah, they ratioed the daylights out of her, and it wasn't even funny. And now she's all, oh, Bernie did the right thing by stepping out. Thank you, Bernie, for your leadership on this. And, that sort of stuff. But whatever, that's where we're at. So,
whatever, exactly. So, I am kind of, I'm with Brianna Joy Gray, and I'm with the others that are like, I know Sirota is endorsing Biden, and he's, I don't know if he's come out and actually formally endorsed him. I know he is saying his words were parsed a bit, and I agree with him. He's saying that we have to lobby hard to push Biden left and really force him to be, to capitulate on some key policies. So that's why I did post what I posted about Biden, because I think it's important for us to do what we can to push the man left if we're going to get stuck with him. But I'm not feeling that's entirely a realistic goal.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of pressure we can put on him. We don't have anything he wants except for our vote. And when they've conditioned us for years and years and years, vote, 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 vote. Give yourself the right to complain or whatever, vote. But that we don't have any other place to go if all you're about is beating Trump. I mean, really, we're not getting anything from Biden so far, and I doubt it'll only be lip service if it does come our way, in my opinion.
I don't see Biden, even if he were to get our support, which he's not. Exactly. Not getting mine. I'm not. I don't even know what his VP pick would be, but the way I'm seeing it, I don't. I'm like I said, it goes back to a numbers game with me. I have fears that go beyond Biden, but I don't want to see Trump in office. But that's the result of the Hillary Clinton debacle. So as I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, what about everybody's speculating about Jesse Ventura and the Green Party? Well, that's not a 2020 solution. No. I don't see that as being a 2020 solution. It may be good to give them 5% on the, get them on the ballot, get them ballot access. But we're not looking at a wave here that's going to undercut the establishment parties, not for 2020.
Yeah, and the whole piece is, and Pasta and Fiorella talk about this the most, until we take care of the election integrity issue in this country, I truly, I believe it's rent strike, it's general strike, it's where we're headed, yellow vests, whatever. I mean, that's where we're going to go. And honestly, I just, every day is in question to me. I just hope that we can make some kind of progress sooner than later. We're running about an hour now, Suzanne.
Yeah, I gotta pop off. Thank you for making note of that. But I really appreciate you being able to get us going here, so we can jump on and go live on these key issues. Where are we going to go from here? Who knows what tomorrow morning is going to bring? Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows what it's going to bring? Well, one of the things it's going to bring is the Daily Dive, which is another show that we have.
That's right.
And Suzanne, do you want to give them the title to your new show that we're?
Yes. I'm happy to. Thank you.
Yeah.
My new show that will be coming out on YouTube, and we're in final stages of developing the concepts and the technical work we need to do. But it's called Truth Be Known, and I will give somebody that I know in my life, my personal life, much credit for that, because he came up with it. My partner, standing over here. And I'm looking forward to doing it. Rick is doing an incredible amount of work to get this thing up and running, and we're very excited about the launch. So that'll be coming up. When do you think, Rick?
Oh, a couple of weeks, I hope, when you're ready.
Okay.
When you're ready.
Yes.
And
all right.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. Anyway, thanks to everybody. I just want to give a quick shout out to Human Brahm. Marcus from Germany is in the room. He's into house.
In the house?
Into house. We had Al Waskey gave us a super chat. Thank you so much, Al. Franklin Walburn, Jeffrey Denton. Yay.
Jeffrey Denton.
Jeffrey
Jeff, how you
Denton.
doing, Jeff?
Amber King was in the chat. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. What a great bunch of folks here. And if I did miss anybody, I sincerely apologize. But we've been flying today. The news is flying faster than we can. Remember to check out Brave New Future with Amber King Friday night. Our town halls, we had John D. Liu, the permaculture Hollywood documentarian. Eco Man. We're having a lot of content coming up. We're going on Rockfin. That's getting loaded daily. And I guess I've done my gratuitous plug for all these shows, but truth be known with Suzanne Murphy, I'm so looking forward to that project, Suzanne.
Me too.
And
thank you for all your help.
Yeah. And
thanks to the listeners for tuning in today.
Yes. And yeah.
Just let's keep getting the word out.
Yes.
That's all we can do, right?
That's all we can do. That's all we can do. Okay, we're going to head out, and if we can just quiet on the set. There we go. Ah, that's the wrong one. Let's get the right one in here. Yeah, how about the right one?